Good evening, and thank you for attending. My name is Denise McKelvey. I'm the moderator for this evening's candidate debate. Before we begin, please make sure you have silenced all phones and electronic devices. Additionally, please refrain from any interruptions to the debate as it is being recorded for on-demand viewing, and post-captioning services will be made available for those individuals that are hard of hearing. Joining me tonight is Ms. Gina Roberts and Mr. Alec Schaefer with the Clean Elections Commission. The Citizens Clean Election Commission is the sponsor for this evening's event. The Clean Elections Act is a campaign finance reform and public education measure initiated by Arizona citizens and passed by voters in 1998. The Clean Election Act was created to allow campaigns to be more issue-oriented and less negative. Participation as a clean elections candidate is strictly voluntary. The system provides full funding for qualified candidates who agree to abide by Clean Elections Act and rules. To qualify for funding, participating candidates must illustrate the support of their constituents by gathering $5 qualifying contributions from registered voters in their legislative districts. The candidates agree to adhere to contribution and spending limits and may not accept money from special interest groups. They also agree to participate in these debates, which serve as an opportunity for voters to hear directly from the candidates. Candidates are encouraged to stay after the debates, after it concludes, to interact with the voters who wish to meet them directly. As we move into the debate, we have questions that have been prepared by Clean Elections based on a voter survey, as well as questions that have been submitted by voters through the Clean Elections smartphone app. However, we encourage live audience questions first. If you have questions, please print them clearly on the note cards that were given to you when you came in and hold it up. One of our volunteers will pick up the cards and deliver them to me. If you need additional cards, just raise your hand. We screen the questions for clarity to eliminate duplications, speeches, or personal attacks on candidates. The debate is scheduled for 1 hour, so we may not be able to get to all the audience questions, but we will do our best. There's an independent timer who will see to it that all candidates have their allotted time to answer questions and will tell them when their time is up. This evening has been designed for an audience-centric format and will include opening statements, 1 minute each. And to break the ice, we'll start with a quick lightning round. The first half of the debate begins with 2 minutes each to answer audience questions. Each candidate will answer the same question, and we will rotate which candidate responds first. After all candidates have responded to the question, the first responding candidate will also be given an additional 30 seconds for any additional comments. The second half will allow a different question per candidate with 1 minute to answer. If you have questions for a specific candidate, please include their name on the note card. It will be considered during the second half. We will end the debate with closing statements at 1 minute each. We ask that you remain polite to all of the candidates and give them a fair and uninterrupted hearing, no matter how strongly you may agree or disagree with anything being said. We welcome and respect your enthusiasm about certain issues, and we appreciate your assistance in helping us maintain a professional and inviting atmosphere tonight for all guests. This means no applause, outbursts, or cheers, except when we introduce the candidates. This is especially important as the debate is being recorded, and again, post-captioning services will be made available after the debate for those individuals that are hard of hearing. As such, I will refer to the candidates by their surnames prior to each question and ask that the candidates speak clearly into the microphone. We will now introduce the candidates. Mr. Noel Campbell, Republican, running for a seat in the House of Representatives. Mr. Campbell is a clean elections candidate. Mr. Chip Dave, right? Davis. Gosh, we got that wrong. Mr. Chip Davis, also a Republican, running for a seat in the House of Representatives. And Mr. David Stringer, Republican, running for a seat at the House of Representatives. The order in which the candidates will speak has been determined by alphabetical order by last name, starting with the Senate for the first half, and will progress from that starting point. The closing oral order will be determined by reverse alphabetical order by last name. We will now begin our opening statements. Mr. Campbell, will you start the opening remarks, please?
Good evening. I'm Noel Campbell. I am the duly elected state representative now serving at the House of Representatives. I'm in my first term. I'm finishing up my second year. I am from Arizona. I grew up in Phoenix, went to grammar school. I went to St. Mary's High School. I went to Phoenix Junior College, Arizona State University, and I studied in Mexico. My background includes military service. I was a naval officer and a pilot. I was a federal law enforcement officer with the U.S. Customs Service, and I was a tanker pilot. I flew fires for 10 years. So I have a good background. I am retired, and that's why I can run for office. I'm proud to be a clean elections candidate. This is my fourth time running clean elections. The first two times, as you may recall, I lost. The third time I won, and now this is my fourth go-around. So I support the concept of clean elections, and I hope that you will consider me again to be reelected to my second term.
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
Thank you. I am Chip Davis. I am a fourth-generation Arizonan. My parents, in their 80s, still live on our family homesteaded ranch. My wife and I have 4 children with families, and we have 10 grandchildren, and they all reside in Arizona. The reason I point that out is that our family has a vested interest in the bright future of the state of Arizona, whether it's going to be elderly issues or education issues, or family value issues. And so I feel it a responsibility to go and serve the state of Arizona and the folks in Legislative District 1, largely Yavapai County, and our friends in Cave Creek Carefree part of Maricopa, and I look forward to serving you.
Thank you. Mr. Stringer.
Thank you. My name is David Stringer. I'm a small businessman in Prescott. My professional training is as an attorney and CPA. In recent years, I've been active in local community affairs here in Prescott, serving on a number of boards and commissions. To mention a few of my favorite, I was a founding member of the Prescott Area Women's Shelter. I've been on the advisory board of the Big Brothers and Big Sisters. I'm a past president of the Prescott Area Lodging Association. I've served as a commissioner on the Prescott Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm currently on the board of the Charlotte Hall Museum, and I'm a member of the Prescott Leadership Advisory Committee. I'm probably best known, however, to local voters for my work on tax initiatives as general counsel to the Citizens Tax Committee and later the Yavapai County Tax Committee. We've run campaigns both for and against various sales tax initiatives that have come before the voters. I am a political conservative. I favor low taxes and small government.
Thank you. In an attempt to lighten the mood for tonight's debate, we were going to do a quick lightning round of this or that. This will allow us to get to know more about the candidates. Please just answer with one word. We're going to start with Mr. Davis. Pandora or Spotify?
Pandora.
Mr. Stringer, CNN, Fox News, or MSNBC?
I would say Fox News, typically.
Mr. Campbell, Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
Mr. Davis, Lumberjack, Sun Devil, or Wildcat?
Lumberjack.
Mr. Stringer, Snapchat or Instagram?
I guess I would have to go with Instagram.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell, Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Trek.
Thank you. We will now start part one of the debate. And the first question, we'll start with Mr. Stringer. What is your opinion on the state of Arizona adequately funding education?
Well, I think that's a very complex issue, and I think the reflexive issue is that we are not adequately funding education. But it's much more complicated than that, because those who want to talk about funding of education and claim that Arizona is underfunding education, what they never talk about is that funding is not strongly correlated with student outcomes. There's a lot of research, a lot of examples of this. I happen to have lived for a number of years in some of the top spending jurisdictions of the country. Washington, D. spends the most on schools and has the lowest student achievement scores. Many of the big urban cities in our country, Chicago, Detroit, New York, LA, they spend far more than we do here in Arizona, and their student achievement scores are in the toilet. So I don't think you can equate funding with student outcomes. And after all, what is the purpose of education? The purpose of education is to educate our children. So having said that, however, I do think there is a case to be made for increasing funding in our schools. I am particularly sensitive to the pay rates of our teachers. There is, I think, a legitimate case to be made for improving compensation for our teachers. So in the last school election that we had here, we had a school bond and a budget override on the Prescott ballot last fall. I did support the budget override because I do think it's important to compensate teachers fairly. So the question, of course, is what is fair? The cost of living here in Arizona is different than the cost of living in New York City or Chicago. So these large urban districts with many, many students and many, many teachers who are paying very, very high salaries because the cost of living in their jurisdictions is higher, that sort of skews the funding analysis. So here in Prescott, Arizona, the cost of living is not as high as it is in New York City, so obviously we don't have to pay those kind of salaries.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
Well, I think that the funding level is better than it was in the past. We just have passed Proposition 123, which is going to provide $10 billion $3.5 billion over the next 10 years to education, our K-12 education. I agree with Mr. Stringer. If you're looking to have educated students and you're looking at just how much you're spending, then I think you're looking at the wrong thing. I do support private schools, homeschooling, charter schools. I support whatever works in education. And because whatever student comes out of that private or public education is a win for our society. So up here at Prescott, at our school districts, Prescott Unified or Chino Valley or Mayer, our school districts up here are good. We have a high graduation ratio, and our costs up here are not as high as that we would spend in, say, the Phoenix Union School District down in Phoenix. So there's always going to be a need for more money. What we want to do and what we did this year in the legislature and what I did when I voted for the bond and override with Prescott Unified School District was to try to ensure that we got more money into our classrooms. Our teachers are underpaid and we were losing them. So it was necessary that we try to stop that teacher loss and get more funding into the classroom. Next year, coming up, it's going to be an issue of how we're going to get more revenue into the system for K-12 education. But I think that overall, this year in the legislature, we did a good job. I supported Prop 123. I worked on that issue for over a year. It's not perfect by any means, but it is a consensus proposition where the Arizona Association of Teachers and Teachers Unions came together and agreed that this was the way to go. So I think we're on a good track, and I'm looking forward to next year to trying to even do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
Arizona's education system is sorely underfunded. You can always tell what's important to somebody by what they invest in. And when I look at how Arizona has invested into our education system, it makes me sad because I believe we have the greatest state in the world, but we fail to invest in what the future is going to bring. We're so concentrated on keeping our costs low today, but we're going to have a miserable tomorrow. And anything in your life, whether it's your house or your car or a relationship, you have got to make an investment in it if you want it to last and put out and have a good product. And Arizona has got to adopt that philosophy. If we want a bright future for economic development in the state of Arizona, we need to invest into our education. When folks look at relocating to the state of Arizona, be it manufacturing, industry, they want to take a look and see where we're investing our money. And they want to know that they can bring their families here and we're going to produce a good education for them. 123 is a fantastic Band-Aid that we just passed. But that's all it is a Band-Aid. If you want a true fix, everybody's got to roll up their sleeves, make a commitment, and make the decisions of where we're going with public schools, charter schools, private schools. How do you distribute the revenue or the funds to all of those different areas, establish those criteria, and move forward? And I think that's one of the top issues that the state of Arizona needs to get going with in the next year and couple of years.
Thank you. Mr. Stringer, do you have any additional comments?
Is it 30 seconds?
Yes.
Thank you. I wish it was, I wish fixing our schools was as simple as spending more money. Because if all it took was money, the United States would have the best schools in the world. We spend more than anybody else, but we don't have the best schools in the world because it isn't simply a matter of funding. Here in Prescott, Arizona, we have better schools than they do in many areas of the state, but we are one of the low-spending jurisdictions. And yet we have excellent schools, at least relatively speaking. And the reason for that is because student outcomes is not directly correlated with funding.
Thank you. We'll move on to the second question. Mr. Campbell, we'll start with you. What is your position on eliminating the income tax?
Oh, I wish we could do that. But unfortunately, we have to have revenue to pay for all the projects and cost of government that we have. I would like to see the personal income tax, at least for maybe for seniors, start off with them because they could certainly use the break. I mean, they've retired, they're living on fixed incomes. But for every tax that we are going to eliminate or reduce, we have to find an alternate source of revenue. And therein lies the problem, because you've got to, the cost of running the government and the programs, it does not decrease. They either stay the same or they go up. So we're always looking for a permanent source of funding for the different programs that we have. I would like to see the governor's proposal on that. I'd like to see how he would fill the void of revenue if we did eliminate the personal income tax. I have not seen that yet. I've heard talk about it, but I'm waiting to see what he proposes. And I guess my greatest concern is that we operate on a razor-thin margin down there at the Capitol. We have a balanced budget. We actually had a slight little surplus this year, but the economic times could take a downturn, so we would be right on the margins again. So if we're going to actively look at reducing personal income tax, we need to look at that in stages. And for me, the determining factor will be is where do we replace that revenue, or what government programs does the governor propose to eliminate?
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
I think rather than getting rid of the income tax, I'd rather have a money tree. It is impossible to get rid of the income tax in the state of Arizona at this time. The state of Arizona, 42% of our general fund revenue is from income tax. And when you have a state that is bleeding severely with lack of investment in infrastructure and education, I don't believe tax cuts is what the conversation needs to be. I think it needs to be on examining all of your resources that you have available to you right now to start fixing the problems that your state faces. Once you've resolved those issues and you've created inefficiencies in other departments, then you can have the conversation of tax cuts. The state of Arizona has lowered the taxes in one form or another 25 of the last 26 years. And I know it's quite popular to wave the tax cut banner, but at some point we have to face reality and start fixing the problems in our state. And again, once we do that, we can have the discussion of tax cuts.
Thank you. Mr. Stringer.
Thank you. I'm a little more optimistic than my colleagues here about the prospects for eliminating or at least substantially reducing the state income tax. Our governor, Doug Ducey, has pledged himself to getting our state income tax as close to zero as possible. There have been proposals and will be some proposals in the next session to begin reducing the state income tax. Obviously, we have to do it incrementally. We can't just do away with a major source of revenue, but it can be done incrementally. I recently went to a conference and I met a guy named Art Laffer. Some of you may remember him from the Reagan administration and the Laffer curve. He's still around, still a very prominent economist, and he's done a study of the states that do not have state income tax, and they all have much higher growth rates than the states that have high income tax rates. So we are competing with Nevada and Texas. Wyoming, there are about 8 states that don't have state income taxes. It certainly can be done. I think the first down payment on eliminating the state income tax is with our seniors. Currently, Arizona does not tax Social Security benefits, right? I think we can build on that for our seniors, and we can perhaps start giving them a much larger exemption, maybe giving them an extra $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 until we basically eliminate state income tax for at least through the middle class. So I think that there's a lot can be accomplished, and I know the governor supports it. I hope to work with the governor in accomplishing that. I would note that our governor this month is on the cover of National Review. He is now being considered one of the most influential conservative governors in the nation, and his proposal for eliminating the state income tax is through economic growth. Where do we get the money? We get it through economic growth.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell, any?
Yeah, I agree. Couldn't agree more wholeheartedly, David, that it's a worthy goal, and I would definitely support that. But where the rubber meets the road is how do you make up the revenue, and therein lies the details. And until they come out with concrete proposals so that it's revenue neutral, then I will just keep my powder dry.
Thank you. Next question, starting with Mr. Davis. Clearly, management of Yavapai County's water resources is a serious challenge due to conflicting concerns of various factions. What leadership will you provide to lead this group towards a solution?
Well, the role of the state legislature can be one of first funding the Arizona Department of Water Resources. We currently have one representative that represents all of rural Arizona for rural water issues, and I think that's something that we need to put a little more into. We need more research and coming up with sound building practices, development practices, conservation practices are something that the legislature could enact. And at some point, if we could acquire land water conservation monies, farm monies, we can invest into the Big Chino Basin, which is really where the danger lies in the development over the Big Chino Basin. The pipeline into Prescott isn't necessarily the danger, it's the development right on top of the Big Chino Basin that the issue is.
Thank you. Mr. Stringer.
Could you please repeat that question?
Clearly, management of Yavapai County's water resources is a serious challenge due to conflicting concerns of various factions. What leadership will you provide to lead these groups towards a solution?
Well, let me start by saying I'm a little more optimistic about water than many people who are in public life and are offering these doom and gloom scenarios for the future. I think we have adequate water for now. I don't think we're facing any immediate shortages. I do think that the Big Chino ultimately can be developed and that it will provide adequate water for us. I understand that we're in a desert and this is a drought and that we have to use common sense conservation measures. But I think long term, the water future is actually bright. because 3/4 of the world's surface is covered with water, and we know how to desalinate. So it's expensive. It's a long-term solution, but there's never going to be a time in Arizona when we don't have adequate water for our personal needs and to support our businesses. So I think that going forward, as we develop better energy sources, and I think solar is probably the answer to that, 20 or 30 years out, we'll have an abundance of water because we'll be able to desalinate water. In California, the Carlsbad desalination plant opened, I think, about 18 months ago, 2 years ago. It produces 50 million gallons a day of fresh water. That's more than a gallon a day for every citizen in the state of California. It provides about 11% of the fresh water for the San Diego area. That's just one desalination plant. So over the next 10, 20, 30 years, we'll be able to desalinate water and we won't have a water crisis.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
Well, the question addresses leadership, and so when these critical water questions come up, we're going to have to stand and be counted. We're going to have to make difficult votes, difficult choices. And I just want to tell you that the last session, I was the only Republican that voted against Senate Bill 1400 and 1268 that would have greatly impacted Cochise and Yuma County's aquifer because of a development of 7,000 homes that was going into Sierra Vista. Don't I get 2 minutes on this?
That's a question.
Okay, so believe me, it was not an easy vote to do as the only Republican that voted against his caucus, and I felt that it was bad water policy to do what they wanted to do down in those counties, which was to lessen the adequacy 100-year supply of water requirements. I won't go into detail on the bill, but it was the hardest vote I had to take. And that bill, by the way, both of them passed the House and passed the Senate. But to my reflections, the governor vetoed those bills and in a sense vindicated the stance that I had taken. So leadership is about taking hard votes. And when it comes to water issues here in this area, there are going to be some very tough votes we're going to have to deal with. And I try to educate myself as much as I can about water. I'm a member of CWAG. I think personally we have about 10 years to figure out what we're going to do as to bringing in water to Prescott and to Prescott Valley. We have water rights to the Big Chino Aquifer. We were given those, of course. But the question is if we start building a pipeline and taking that water, will that impact the Upper Verde River? We want, of course, all of us want to keep the Verde a perennial running river, and it's one of the last ones we have in Arizona. So we have to be very careful. We have time with the monitoring wells that are in there, but the truth of it is that the water tables are dropping in Williamson Valley. So tough decisions are going to have to be made about, are we going to build a pipeline? And are we going to, that's going to be a voted issue. And where do we stand on that? I personally would like to see a much greater effort in conservation and mitigation. I'd like to see, I mean, you can go around Prescott and you'll see people watering their yards in the middle of the day. Every ounce of water that they do in the afternoon is 70% of it's evaporated. So we could get real serious about water conservation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, any further comments?
Yes. The role that the legislative members can take is that we can convene all of the incorporated community elected officials, and we can convene all of the different water groups that exist throughout Yavapai County, and we can have discussions and debate and come up with solutions, and we can agree to things that are good for the Verde and things that are good for the Prescott area and things that are good for the Big Chino Basin. And that is one thing that our legislative members can do.
Thank you. Next question, Mr. Stringer. What would you do to bring jobs to Arizona?
Well, You're asking a question about economic development, and I think there's a number of things that we can do to bring jobs to Arizona. And I think our governor, Governor Ducey, has some very specific proposals in that area. One thing we need to do, although Arizona is a low-tax state, relatively speaking, and we are business-friendly, relatively speaking, we are competing with Texas and Nevada, which have no state income tax and have an even more favorable tax climate than we do. There are companies in California, which are hard-pressed by their tax structure and the decline in their infrastructure, and they're wanting to leave California, and they are relocating to other states that have a better business climate. And I think that Arizona needs, first of all, to improve its business climate. I think education, companies relocating, people relocating to Arizona to start jobs, to start companies and create jobs. They want to have an environment that is conducive to their family and their education of their children. So I think obviously improving education is a consideration. But again, on the education issue, I think part of the problem is communication and perception. Arizona has some great schools. We have one of the best charter school systems in the country. An increasing number of children are exercising school choice. So these are all very positive things that we're doing to improve the business climate in Arizona, and I would continue those things.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
I think from a state perspective, we have so many assets that are so attractive to businesses. We have a wonderful climate. We have a beautiful state. We have a basic good infrastructure transportation system, but that is sadly falling in disrepair. But we are able to get around this state with our interstate system. So we have all the things that are necessary for businesses to come here. I would say this, the last session that we were in, we provided an additional $32 million to the university systems for monies that could bring in better research programs. And so we're funding higher education also, and we didn't get a chance to talk about that. But we didn't forget about our universities. And I agree. I think businesses look at Arizona for a couple of reasons. One, what is the tax structure? Do they have the infrastructure to come in? And then what is the quality of life? If a major company is going to relocate, that means that the personnel, the management of that company is going to relocate to Arizona. That's very important for our areas, that they have good educational resources for the children of these management personnel that are going to run these companies. If they're just expanding, that's not the primary issue. They're looking more at infrastructure and the labor market. One thing about Arizona, though, we have an increasing population that comes in from outside the state, and when there are good jobs offered, we may not have the local people here to fill them immediately, but the word spreads rapidly, and people do move around, and a good job will attract people coming in from other areas of the country. So overall, I'm optimistic. I think the governor's done a great job. We've brought in some large companies, and I think that we're on the fast track to even bring in more industry and more economic growth.
Thank you. Mr. Davis.
Thank you. Arizona is actually ranked #1 in entrepreneurial activity in compared to the rest of our states. And I think when we look at relocating new businesses here or industry, they do want to look at our education, and they do want to look at our infrastructure to make sure that they can get their goods in and out of our state. I think another thing they look at is the regulatory restrictions that the state has on businesses. And so if we can be friendly towards our regulatory policies, that would help. We also have a lot of opportunity in the fact that we sit between California and Texas and Mexico to our south, and we can clearly improve the relations with those three entities, because those three markets are some of the world's biggest markets: Texas, California, Mexico. We can also start exercising more public-private partnerships in creating solutions for the state of Arizona, where we partner with private industry, with government. And last but not least, I think when they take a look at the state of Arizona and they see that it has a government body filled with sane people, they'll probably want to relocate here.
Thank you. Mr. Stringer, any additional
Just
comments?
A couple of things that I didn't touch on, and in terms of creating jobs and economic development, is the importance of infrastructure. I'm very concerned about I-17. I use it a lot myself. It is a major commercial corridor here in northern Arizona, and I do think we need to do something about I-17. So there's a number of commercial corridors around the state, obviously, that need attention, but that's one of the key ones. The second thing I wanted to mention is that Arizona has traditionally been a retirement state. That's what turned our state red, the huge influx of retirees to the southwest. My time is up. All right. I'll try to come back to that later.
Thank you. Last question for this half of the debate. This question goes to Mr. Campbell. What is your opinion regarding the transgender sex identification bathroom facility issue?
I think that's ridiculous. I really do. I mean, you know, I maybe I'm old school, but the idea that a person who is of the male gender that will go into a female's bathroom or a locker room is ridiculous. And I think it goes against common sense. And I can't believe that the present administration would even push something like that. I mean, it is just so politically correct to cave into that ridiculous kind of stuff. So I guess you can figure it out. I oppose that. I would never support something like that.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
Well, our education's failing, our infrastructure's failing, our country is in trillions of dollars of debt. We have threats from foreign powers from all over the world, and our conversation is this. I find it hard to believe that this is the conversation of the day.
Thank you. Mr. Stringer?
I think this is one that all three of us agree on. Noel said it was ridiculous. I also agree it is ridiculous. But we can't simply dismiss it as being something ridiculous. It's very, very serious, and it's being forced down our throats by Washington, D.C., and by the courts. So this is not something we can just write off. This is something that we may actually have to deal with. So I think it's part of a larger cultural war, a war against traditional values, a war against families, the war against gender identity, that boys and girls are different. That's the traditional view, and what they're actually teaching in our progressive schools, that really, gender is a continuum, and gender isn't part a choice that people make. And it's socially conditioned and is not conditioned. It's not a result of biological birth or something. So I think it's part of a larger movement that is working against traditional values and family values, and I am very, very strongly opposed to it, deeply concerned about it. But I think it's something that we're going to have to really take very seriously, because the people working against us, they're very serious about what they're trying to do.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Mr. Campbell? Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to part two. This is where each candidate will receive a separate question specific to them with 1 minute to respond. The first question is for Mr. Davis. What are the top 3 issues you see as most affecting this district?
Education, infrastructure, healthcare, and I'm going to add a 4th one, and that is incarceration costs.
Thank you. Mr. Stringer, can you name a couple of things that distinguish you from the other candidates?
I can name one right off the bat. I have spent my career in business, practicing law, owning a business, developing real estate. I've spent my life in the private sector. I have not been a government man my entire life. I think one of the things that distinguishes is that we are developing a culture that we have, government employees up here with their guaranteed salaries and benefits and retirement and so on like that. And then you have the universe of taxpayers who don't enjoy those benefits, who don't get those benefits themselves, but they have to pay for them. So I'm on the side of the taxpayer. I'm not on the side of the government. And I think that is one of the things that distinguishes me, at least from one of my colleagues here.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell, what have you done to bring Common Core to a screeching halt? Yes.
Well, I supported Diane Douglas for school superintendent, which I thought, I think that we're pretty smart here in Arizona. We don't need people setting our standards for us that don't live here and think they know better than we do. Our public education system has worked very well. I'm more concerned with our education system turning out smart students, of course, but are they good citizens? Do they come out with an appreciation for the society they're going into? Do they have democratic values? Will they become supporters of a free enterprise system? So that's how I look at that. And I think that Common Core, it just doesn't make any sense. And I think that the traditional way of learning that taught in the public schools has served us well. I think that we're going to have a lot of problems with the new math and the way it's instructed. So I do not support Common Core. I support local control and local curriculum.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, what political or elected experience do you have to bring to the office?
I was a Little League coach. And I've served on the Yavapai County Board of Supervisors for the past 20 years. I served on the Verde Valley Senior Center Board for 20 years as its president. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Stringer, what is your definition of business climate?
The definition of a business climate refers to largely the regulatory environment that the government imposes on businesses and the tax structure that it imposes on business. I would say those are the two key components of the business climate. How friendly and receptive are we to business? How easy do we make it for new businesses to locate here or to grow? What kind of taxes do we impose on them? What kind of culture do we have so they can look forward to continuity going forward? They come here, we offer them some incentives. How can they be sure that those incentives are going to stay in place and that we will continue to offer them low taxes and freedom from unnecessary and burdensome regulations? I think that's what I mean when I use the term business climate.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell, what would you do to make certain that there is no water shortage in Arizona, given that the drought is ongoing, Lake Mead is at an all-time low, and population growth is continuing?
Well, I think I would do what I did last session, is I would take hard votes to protect the aquifer and that runs throughout the state. We have several aquifers, but if you deplete one, water moves around. They don't really quite understand the hydrology, but we know that if we're taking out of the little Chino, it does affect the big Chino. So it is that we have to have an overall water policy that looks into the future. I know Governor Ducey is looking at that, and I support that. I agree with that. We need to have a system of management of our water resources that will protect our use into the future. And believe me, we're gonna come up against strong opposition from groups that want to tap our water resources, and we have to be prepared to do what's right for the people of Arizona.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, how or what specifically would you do to suggest that the state do to increase funding to education?
The very first thing you have to do is an analysis of where are your expenses in the entire state system. And once you've done an analysis of where the expenses are going, I think you need to determine are those expenses meeting the value that it provides, or are they excessive? Is the services that we're providing through government maybe something that can be done less expensive through private industry? Are there efficiencies you could create within departments? I think before we can do anything, we have to first make sure that we're running an efficient government, and then where we're not, clean it up and start finding money.
Thank you. Mr. Stringer, you have stated that running for the House is not rocket science. Anybody can do it. Please explain.
I've never said that. I don't know where you got that quote. That's not something I've ever said. But yeah, could you tell us where you got that quote? Doesn't sound familiar to me at all.
These are audience questions.
I've never made such a statement.
How about if I ask?
I'll try to deal with the question, but just so everybody understands, I have never said that running for the House of Representatives is not rocket science. I will say this: I do believe that that citizens, in general, should be allowed and should be encouraged to run for public office. Of course they're allowed, but they should be encouraged. We need more citizen participation in government. I think the context of that, how much time do I have left? Yeah, the context of that is some statements I made about my early life. When I was 17 years old, I was a Senate intern in Washington, D.C., and I saw a lot of politicians, a lot of very important people up close, and I developed, quite frankly, a very cynical opinion of politicians because I saw them, a lot of them, as sort of second-rate people, and they are. And so that was a formative experience of mine. But I do think that there's a lot that goes into a campaign. Believe me, this is not the first campaign I've run. I've run some tax campaigns over the last few years. Running a political campaign is a lot of work and takes a lot of thinking.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell, there are over 25 school districts in Yavapai County with separate administrative demands on taxpayer funding, resulting in less dollars in the classroom. Would you support consolidating many of these districts? Why or why not?
In theory, I would support consolidation, but there are problems with governance when you do that. What I would look for is not consolidation of school districts so much as shared responsibilities for cost. For example, maybe unifying the transportation system. I would look to, because, for example, we have 3 school districts very in close proximity here, and there should be some economy of scale savings that we could make. And or maybe we could privatize the school bus drivers. We could look at that. We could look at ways to save money in the system, because when they ask us to find more money down at the legislature for education, that's the one question that everybody, all the legislators ask that I know is, hey, what are they doing? We're trying to squeeze blood out of turnips up here. We want to know what these school districts are doing to cut their costs and be more efficient.
Thank you. Next question for Mr. Davis. Do you believe the new bill proposing a ban for those on a no-fly list is common sense or a step towards federal overreach?
Well, that answer doesn't require a rocket scientist. I would say that was very common sense proposal.
Thank you. Mr. Stringer, what are your views on legalizing recreational marijuana?
Well, many of you may know that I spent much of my career practicing law, and I was a criminal defense lawyer for many years. I did other things besides criminal defense, but that was part of my practice for many years. And I've had a lot of contact with people who use marijuana, deal in marijuana. And I will tell you that every client I ever had who was involved in drugs was a loser, all right? And that doesn't mean they were guilty and went to jail, but I do not favor illegal drugs. I see what illegal drugs have done to people. Anybody who uses marijuana on a regular basis is going to have problems. It destroys your incentive and your judgment. So I do not support decriminalization of marijuana. What I do support is a change in Arizona's law about how we deal with people with drug problems. I favor more drug treatment. I favor more diversion. I favor dealing with these people in a more humane and effective way.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell, what is your opinion about giving more power to individual states and granting less power to the federal government?
I support that. I support a convention of the states to amend the Constitution. You know, our Constitution is it's like an old house, and you know, and I live in an old house, a historic home, and it's good when you have an old house to open the windows up and let some fresh air come in, and get a fresh breeze in. We have some serious problems with our federal Congress. I support term limits. They don't have term limits. I support a balanced budget. We've never had a balanced budget. I support, you know, any type of legislation that will give the states more authority. I mean, let's remember the states created the federal government, not the other way around. So I'm a strong supporter of the 10th Amendment, and I strongly believe in states' rights, and I think that our federal government is overreached in far too many ways, and I think that these branches need to be reined in, and we can do that by a convention of the states to amend the Constitution.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, how long have you and your family lived in Yavapai County? And in one sentence, please state why voters in your district should vote for you.
Thank you. My family has been in Yavapai County for 130 years on my mother's side. My family has been in the state of Arizona in the Phoenix area on my father's side for about 111 years. I would like to ask for folks to vote for me because I believe that I understand what our morals are, what our ethics are, what our characteristics are, what our heritage is, and I believe that I know what some of the solutions might be. I know what issues have faced rural Arizona, and I would like to be a part of the team that fixes those things.
Thank you. Mr. Stringer, what are your qualifications to serve Arizona in the state legislature?
Well, I think my most important qualification is my life experience in business and in law. As I say, I was a Senate intern when I was 17 years old in Washington. I worked for the government actually for a number of years before I went into private law practice. I have an appreciation for the private sector, which I think is fundamental to our economy and to our future. So I have an appreciation for issues like taxes. I'm a CPA. I understand taxes and the effect that taxes have on the economy. I've been involved in politics here locally for the last several years. I've run several campaigns involving tax initiatives. I've also served my party as a precinct committeeman, as a state committeeman, recently a delegate to the state convention. So I've had a lot of involvement in government and working with government workers, often on the other side of the table, which gives me insight into how government works.
Okay, last question for the evening, Mr. Campbell. What are your thoughts on whether the government should invest more money in building or expanding the border fence with Mexico?
Well, I have lived in Mexico as a student. I've traveled all over Mexico, Central America. Mexico is a great country. It's not a third world country. It's really more of a second world country. We have excellent trade opportunities in Mexico for the state of Arizona and for the nation. I am not in favor of building a wall. I don't think that's necessary. We have the electronic means to secure the border. There are certain portions of the border where we have very high crossing rates of immigrants, and maybe in those areas a fence or a wall would be appropriate, but it'd be very difficult through the topography, and I know I've worked in those areas. I worked in Calexico, San Isidro, and El Paso, all up down the line. Very difficult to do that. What we really need to do is, and we're seeing this right now, is that Mexico is prospering and we're having less of an immigration factor. So I would like to encourage that. We know immigrants come up here because they want to work, and if there's adequate work in their own country, believe me, they would like to stay there.
Thank you. We will now begin the closing statements, starting with Mr. Stringer.
Thank you. My campaign for the House of Representatives is about freedom. I believe that our constitutional liberties are under assault. I think that government is not, as Ronald Reagan said, is not the solution to all of our problems, but is often the problem itself. I don't think the government always has the solution. There are about 5 areas that I would like to concentrate on if I'm elected to the House of Representatives. The first is economic development and quality of life, and they are not the same things. I don't think that economic development, I think that economic development should only be pursued when it improves the quality of life for our citizens. I want to reform education. I want to begin the process of reducing and hopefully someday eliminating our state income tax. I want to reform the criminal justice system so that judges have more options in how they sentence nonviolent offenders. And I want to improve infrastructure in the state of Arizona because I think that, again, is fundamental to improving the business climate and our economic future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell.
Well, I'm very proud to have served 2 years in the legislature. I've had important jobs. I've worked on important issues, and that's what is making me want to go back for another 2 years. I was able to work for a year on the PSPRS, the Public Safety Retirement System. I was able to work on Prop 123, and I was also able to work on the Structured Sober Living Bill here that affects us so greatly in Prescott, dealing with these structured sober living homes. I understand. Let me just say this. I am not in love with this job. I like it. I'm not a career politician. I never have been. I'm here to serve my community. I think I've done a good job, and if you think I've done a good job, then I would ask for your vote. And I will say I'm sitting next to 2 quality individuals here, and if I were defeated, I would not hang my head and pout. I would go on with my life, and we would have 2 fine representatives here, or possibly even a 3rd person running. So with that, I want to thank you for having me.
Thank you. To our candidates, we thank you so much for participating in our forum. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Davis. Excuse me. Mr. Davis, please.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome.
I've served on the Yavapai County Board of Supervisors for 20 years, and it's been a great experience, but we have been the recipient of the state legislative actions for 20 years. And some things have been very good and very beneficial, and some things have been very impactful. And one of the things that I've witnessed is that sometimes bills are crafted to create a solution for a metropolitan problem, and it creates adverse effects on rural Arizona. And so I would like to make sure that our voice is down there, that they understand what rural Arizona issues are and the things that I can help with. And I really believe we have the greatest state in the world. And if we get good, solid, sound government, there's nothing stopping us, and I hope to push in that direction. I would ask for your vote on August 30th. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we can thank our candidates for participating in our forum. And to our audience, we thank you for coming and taking the time to inform yourselves before voting. We encourage you to visit www.azcleanelections.gov, where you can find information on the upcoming elections. You can download the Clean Elections app and learn about the candidates running for office. A link to the video of this debate, as well as other Clean Elections debates, will be posted on that site within 72 hours of the scheduled debate. We also ask that you please fill out those debate evaluation forms that you received when you came in and return it to one of our volunteers. Your feedback is important to the Commission and will improve future debates based on that. So thank you all for coming tonight, and you are welcome to stay and speak directly to the candidates.